Yeah. I like that. I think we're going to end up seeing a switch. The card might end up in the hands of Renegade this time. Unless they really switch things up. Although Integral, I feel like, would struggle here.
Yeah.
They don't necessarily have to go for something like that. If they want to still play the pick-off burst, they go Jawhead. But wait, oh, it's a Baksha Roam. Okay. Focus in the EXP and they pick up the Zask for Yue. Oh, that Zask might end up becoming the X-Factor winning pick in this game.
So they did go for the more unique mid laners. And I feel like it's a more comfortable pick for Yue since he can still play as aggressively and have a backup plan to survive. Like the Dominator's Descent just buys so much time for him to either reposition and get away from danger, especially considering he's up against King Kong. But now, what does Kirk play into this?
We were talking about the Zast too for a bit. Like we were, you know, throwing that out there when the Jushin was picked up throughout the series, and so now for Game 5, Yue will go ahead and take that. And they've got the really the front line covered here. Aurora, the last pick. We mentioned this from Kirk earlier on. The Edith this time around, he's going to go for it and put it in the XP lane.
I mean, it does kind of like work well against lineups who just want to keep going in. It can kind of answer back towards the Baksha with just, if you make a single mistake with the Baksha Shield Unity, then that can be an immediate punish.
Yeah.
But again, it feels like they'll need a bit more time, considering the Ling is in their hands once more.
My focal point in game number 1 is the Roam. Now it's in the EXP lanes. It's the Edith of Kirk and the iconic Edward of Phobius that, if I'm not mistaken, has less than 3 losses this season. Double digits, close to 15 in wins.
Well, I can barely hear myself think. The Champions Arena is erupting right now. One last look of the lineups here. We're going to go ahead and throw it over to the casters to bring us into our final game of this series. Take it away.
There's no turning back. This is the point of no return. One of these teams are making it to the upper bracket finals. The other drops to the lower bracket. Sudden death between the Trailblazers, the heralds of a new era in MPL PH. It's Aurora versus Onyx, Game 5.
We did talk about all the unique picks that can potentially come in, and here in the last game, Aurora indeed decides to show us one in the hands of Yue. This is going to be the Zask. And it was indeed mentioned that it could potentially be the X factor for this game. But I'm really looking at what can we potentially expect as well. Since we did lay in the gold lane, since we did lay out like the typical, this is a standard matchup and all that, but earlier it felt like it wasn't entirely the killer performance we were expecting from him, you know?
Yeah,
like, it didn't feel like its full potential.
Absolutely. I was actually looking forward to the killer performance. I gave it the benefit of the doubt because, you know what, Renegade was on the Cho, and he was hunting down Kellera very severely in that last one anyway. So let's see if he's going to have a better time here. Obviously, he's on a very comfortable pick that is a little bit more, you know, a little bit more self-sufficient on this Harif, so maybe that'll help a lot.
And he does decide to play it safer, picking up the Purify, since the Purify hasn't been much of an option recently for Kellera in the previous games, but that's also taking into consideration the kind of hero he did pick up. But oh, hold on, Edwards?
Yeah, very early on, 2v1 with a Phobius that doesn't really have the ultimate, but it looks like it's going to be a trap. It's Demon Kai to the rescue. Might have not used the Shadow Kill, but will be able to at least get into the fight. King Kong, he's low! Edward used the flicker, and he said, you know what, it's worth it. I'll take that kill.
That was a long, drawn-out sequence, an amazing response by Aurora into an eventual punish, and then a trade-off once more. And the fact that Demon Kite is still on the map makes it worth it for the Northern Lights. A turtle scored by Demon Kite here, not even needing the entry.
So unfortunate for Onyx Philippines. They showed how decisive they actually were in trying to get the advantage, potentially setting up for the first objective of the game. But Demon Kite and his rotation, it was way too fast, and he got the better of Onyx Philippines earlier. And just, this is what we're talking about. Even in the laning phase, Kellera is clearly struggling against Demon Kite.
Complete opposite side of the map. Let's go coast to coast. XP lane, a disaster for Onyx. Gold lane, despite Kellera being on a hero that he has, what, a close to 80% win rate on the Harith, he's getting punished hard.
And we're not even at the point of the game where the team fights are happening just yet. This is just Kelra up against Dominkai. What more when you have to think about Yue? What more when you have to think about Dominkai, or Demon Kite rather, because the first rotations have been heavy on the EXP lane. So now you would think that he'd be a lot more free to at least just manage his lane, but that's not what we're seeing so far.
Yeah, we haven't even seen the the Yue Zas Dominator's descent. So I'm looking for that. Again, using it for survival, at least for now. But the fight is actually happening near Keller, and Renegade, he's gonna get caught out here. And the backup is close, but and trying to get close to Kelra. Demon Kite as well. Dominkai is dealing with 3 people here. I think that's an overall net loss for Aurora. They are able to take Keller as a consolation prize.
That's a 2-for-1. Renegade and Dominkite for the gold standard. Up top, though, they're able to isolate Edward. I think that's a blessing in disguise for ONIC, the fact that that fight happened without Edward. If there was Edward there, oh my god. You can flip that on its head and say Aurora can take 3 for free.
Yeah, so far it's a really close fight. They're just exchanging blows every now and then, but it isn't entirely a full picture just yet. And we're seeing how Aurora successfully forces out so many things from ONIC Philippines, however. Just even in that previous sequence, Keller was just forced to use the Purify to get rid of the Shadow, but not even that was enough. He still fell to the hands of Demon Kite.
Yeah, it's going to be a bit of an easy turtle take here for Aurora with Edward and Renegade this time around. A duo, a tandem up on front.
100% of turtles so far. 4.5 minutes in, going over to the Northern Lights. And I'm afraid to say it, but it seems like King Kong on the Ling has accepted his fate that he's going to have to play on the back foot despite having 2 kills already to his name this early on. He's saying, yeah, we can't let Game 4 happen again. Let's throw back to yesterday.
Yeah, and this is very unusual, right? We just talked about the entire turbo jungling pattern of King Kong.
And that was what happened yesterday, or what Zyda tried to do, because it was a lineup very similar to what Aurora's fielding. That Falcons got a win in about 11.5 minutes.
Yeah, so this is complete denial of Onyx patterns, but wait! Woohoo!
Demon Kite tried to do something nasty there, but Brusco was very quick with the answer.
Fortunately, he was there, so they had a way to directly answer back, but the Dominator's Descent will be able to defend this mid lane turret for Aurora, and Kelra's holding on to the bottom lane as well. Will he really take them on?
Well, Renegade proving to be a very tough target, but with the help of the rest of the squad, you know the old saying, nothing is really, really tough against 4 opponents.
I think that's a Filipino saying, but yeah, you
translated it. I'm sorry, I had to.
It still makes sense. That was literally 4 members of ONIC just trying to puncture the wheel, man. Now the fight continues once more. Edward jumping on the 2. Super Prince pushing them back. Here's the thing is, we talked about how US Dominator's Descent should be the game changer, right? But just Demon Kite being a man-possessed, just Aurora, all in all, being more in sync compared to the Super Fan being more on time, it's letting you as Zask look like it's taken easy. You know, just relaxed and just
very chill.
Honestly, on top of that, it feels like he's almost always in the middle lane. Like, we haven't been seeing much rotations from him just yet, and it's also probably because by him being in the mid lane, ONIC Philippines get to immediately see how they're able to force out that Dominator's Descent from Yue, but this is different. He still has it this time, so they can play aggressively if they want to.
Yeah, and has vision with the Nightmaric spawn on the far left, so now they can focus on the right. And Edward is jumping in, trying to get maybe someone to take the fight, but no one's actually biting here for ONIC.
That's a conceal though. Are they going in?
Looks like they are. That's a 2-man knockout from Kirk with Earth Shatter. There goes the Primal Wrap, but he's going to get taken out before he even can let down a single bullet. And now it's going to be King Kong from the back, or from the side rather, facing off against Renegade Demon Kai, while there's also a bit of a fight happening with Yue getting taken out by the, this time around, Super Friends.
3 for 1, Kirk for Edward, Yue and Dominkite. I think ONIC can smell it in the water. Blood like sharks still circling. Demon Kite and Renegade checking range. King Kong jumping through. No one home for the purple.
Okay, not what I expected. Especially if you were King Kong, maybe right on time though. Again, 3-man from ONIC just so hell-bent on just pushing them or keeping them under the tower while King Kong gets the purple.
Oh, it's his turn to steal.
Oh my goodness, this is such a well-thought plan by ONIC Philippines, because you would have thought that yeah, the task might be a problem, but aside the fact that we aren't feeling it just yet, ONIC Philippines, now that they're able to group up together, we see the essence of their lineup. We see how they thrive in all those drawn-out team fights just by merely having the Edith, which again earlier didn't last long because that was a sacrifice he willingly took, but the Jushin and the Harith, they're literally making things happen for ONIC Philippines, and Aurora, they're just forced to back away.
These are all parts of Onyx lineup that are very different from TNC's yesterday when a same Zask-centered draft bodied them. So already we're approaching a very different trajectory. ONIC, very patient. They're taking their time. They're picking their fights. And they've actually gotten a lead of their own. Oh my lord. Almost 9 minutes in and they're up 1,000.
Yeah. There's a Thunder Bell already for Kirk, but other than that, he went for that typical Chop Suey build. So he's just really preparing himself to tank up majority of the damage. I feel like a Radiant Armor will be also a potential next option for them, so they can be a lot more confident to take on Aurora in the succeeding fights. But they go for the setup first!
And there goes the setup that we're talking about. Brusco very happy to take it into Edward. Can't really join the fight anymore, even with Infernal Pursuit, and now they are getting picked off one by one. Red J is going to go back first. Low is going to be Edward and Dominkite, so they can't really go hard. King Kong is on the side waiting for them to make a move, and they are going to have to disperse.
They took Renegade down for a bargain. They almost lost 2, but instead retreated at the right time and even forced out a Revitalize from the Hitman.
And Super Frizz doesn't care. He's like, I'm just gonna keep repositioning these Nightmaric spawns, or even the Dominator Descent itself. So when it was close enough to the turret, Yua was forced to walk away so he could keep himself safe, and now they're in control of the Lord.
Lord Dance initiated. Aurora thinking twice about it. Edward hiding back behind the fence brush. Kirk holding the Prixel. Renegade spots 2, forcing them out of that river brush. And again, just because of sheer numbers and the Little Johnnies, our good friend Trex likes to call them Little Johnnies, they're able to win parts of the map back.
Oh yeah, but there is no flicker available for Brusco, so that's Aurora probably taking advantage of that in order to take control of this area, but Brusco still will try to scout them either way.
That split push.
Brusco's on the side. There's also a push happening on the bottom. There you go. He's looking for Demon Kite, actually, and he actually gets taken out. That's going to be Retribution removed from Aurora. Make that 2 members going down as well, and now it's a disaster. Everything's falling apart for the Northern Lights in this game.
Dominkite, the lone survivor of Onyx Onslaught.
And Brusco didn't need the flicker. He just walked towards Demon Kite, who unfortunately got knocked up by the Lord, and it wasn't an immediate response either way. He waited for a few moments, and it was sort of an off-angle kick, which we will be seeing in the instant replay, but nonetheless, just the mere fact that they were able to hold down Demon Kite for a moment, there's that immediate burst damage coming in from Kellera already and King Kong.
And Kirk, not to mention how this was poetry in motion, an orchestra of violence that the Super Fam waited so long. They waited 2 games. I'm thinking that was the wind-up. Game 4, the reason why they were so scared to just fight is because they were waiting to unleash something like that.
Yeah, that was basically 3 or 4 projectiles thrown to Demon Kite while he was in midair. So,
wait, he's been in midair for a while. He got knocked up by the Lord and then the way of the dragon.
King Kong 1v1 kill up top!
How did that even happen? That was insane, and now it's just going to make the defense even a little bit more troublesome. Luckily for Aurora, though, no major objective on the map.
Is it just me, or am I smelling a wee bit of impatience? A little sense of urgency gone awry for Aurora. We're out of our breath. We're not in control. What do we do? And then they just they send resources where they shouldn't be.
Yeah, now Super Prince picked up the clock. He's a lot more tankier. But Renegade, oh no!
Definitely tankier. King Kong is in the middle there. He's distracting 3 members of Aurora, actually getting the kill for Demon Kite as well, or Dominkite rather. And now they're gonna have to just watch as the tower on the bottom will fall.
King for Renegade and Dominkite. I'll take that trade any day, twice on Thursdays.
They have a wave still incoming.
Still have a wave.
Brusco 2 has the flicker.
No fear with the Dominator's Descent. That's going to be the ultimate from Disaster, removed from the map, as well as its owner, Yue. And Demon Kite and Edward are going to be left on his own. I don't think that they're going to stand a chance here, and they're going to focus it down. Edward trying to keep them, trying to push him back, though. Oh my goodness, it's a double, and that's a wipeout for Onyx Philippines. Rora's running in.
They're taking no prisoners. King Kong just respawns in the nick of time, but technically,
They do.
fundamentally, you just take care of the waves, make sure no minions stand within range of your base, and you're fine.
But could have it been probably better if King Kong decided not to just dive towards the backlines earlier?
And just smack the base.
And right on front, yeah.
Yeah, we were just saying that. Do we sense some sort of impatience from Aurora? But it feels like Onyx too. They showed some bits of that.
That's the major what if this series presents to us. Lord Dance imminent. Demon Kite, Domin Kite, just wailing away. Lord approaching half health.
You're gonna have to check the map here, Aurora. Feel it out. Where is King Kong gonna come from? Demon Kite is very vulnerable as well as Doming, but there was a flicker coming in. It's King Kong with a Lord Steal! And they're going out with hands held high. Brusco got caught though, he tripped a little bit. And I think that's enough. Onyx very happy with that.
That was the perfect timing that King Kong was building up to all series long. He failed in game 4, but not here, not now.
And prior that, he forced out the flicker from Edward. So now they don't have it in the hands of the Phobius, but they were able to successfully take care of the Lord. And that's all what matters to Aurora at this point.
Took just a little bit too long to take it down. Bought enough time for King Kong to get in position.
Boy, there's a conceal.
Suddenly, Aurora back on the offensive. What are they looking for here? Renegade leading the way, jumps the wall. Both teams are not in any shape to force this. I'd reckon it's either someone folds, and then we end here or wait for another Lord.
Yeah, Brusco felt the damage of Yue earlier though. He already picked up the Divine Glaive and the Holy Crystal. And as much as Brusco does have the Athena's Shield, he receives majority of the damage that Yue actually throws out, and when it's well positioned and when it isn't the first target, which is happening more often than not, then that's going to be a problem in the long run for ONIC Philippines.
Something I'm thinking here is how Aurora's actually dealing with the waves. They're very conservative about picking fights now. Remember that 1v1 kill by by King Kong on Demon Kite up top? Expect that Aurora's never going to do that ever again.
Feels like a one-off at this point,
Yeah,
right?
they're only ever going to send Edward and Renegade alone. And a little thing that Renegade does well here is I love that he picked up the Molten Essence. He's going to need that to bump into waves and clear fast.
Yeah.
Because already, I'm telling you now, even with the flubs that ONIC fell into the past 2 or 3 minutes, they're still at least winning the map.
Yeah. And at least for them, they're the ones who can do it first. Now that they're in the lead, now that they have better map control, and King Kong, he just has such high mobility that even if there's a threat of a backshot immediately rolling and Demon Kite catching up, it's not the same. This time there are a lot more ways to escape from Aurora.
Yeah, as long as King Kong has that purple buff, that's he can do whatever he wants at this point. That's why it's so crucial.
That's half the battle.
Yeah.
Securing the purple is half the battle.
Oh!
Brusco!
They spot him out. That's going to be concealed, used up already for ONIC. And that might be a pretty big resource, especially with Lord coming up in 20 seconds.
Again, even with all the mid lane turrets out, they find a way to force the Dominator's descent.
Yep. So, what do you get? What would you rather have? Dominator's descent or conceal? I'm thinking Aurora walked away with a bargain there. I think this is a safe go. And that's going to come off a cooldown. Onyx is just going to blitz it. Oh, Lord, they're blitzing it.
They are blitzing it. We don't need conceal if they can see us right here in their faces. Edward going to be pushed back a little bit with the Zushin. Again, they're waiting for someone to make a move. Who's it going to be? Brusco is on the right side. Doesn't have conceal, but he might have it up very soon. Might boil down to a 50-50 on the retry here.
Oh, by the way, these are enhanced minions in the mid and the bottom lane.
Oh no, they're gonna have to take care of that.
Big boys and carts, and the wave should take care of itself, but do note this is the first time in a while that a Lord Dance happens.
Yeah.
That Rora knows exactly where King Kong is. See, he makes himself visible here. Oh, pushing up top.
Shows himself on the map. Renegade getting knocked up non-stop here, forcing to use the Revitalize, but he's not going to be healthy enough to actually tank any hits here. Will be forced to maybe back off and regen for now.
All right, Lord evolves. King Kong secures his purple. Demon Kite just saying, hey, Dominic, take my purple. This is your go now. what's Dominic to do here?
Yeah.
Oh no, they're still going to DK. All right.
Keeping their distance. Kite Brothers together. And the Dominator's Descent is already available again for Yue. So Aurora was successfully able to buy enough time. But that doesn't prevent ONIC Philippines from potentially setting things up.
Stop here, popping up on the Immortality. Got a good catch here on the Brusco, but I think they bought just enough time. That's 2 members going down for Aurora, Renegade, and Doming, and now they're getting chased down by the rest of ONIC Philippines. That is going to be it. With that wipeout, it's ONIC for the win.
The Super Family is going to the upper bracket finals. History repeats itself as the defending champions take down the rivals, both Trailblazers of